Mr. Professor, ladies and gentlemen. Subject of my speech will be a presentation basic principles governing administrative proceedings conducted by Council under the Act Consular Law. These principles are derived from the disparate provisions of the Act, supplemented where necessary by relevant constitutional provision. Unlike the Code of Administrative Procedure, the Consular Law does not explicitly codify these principles. Polish procedure is regulated by Act Consular Law as a distinct procedural framework separate from the general procedural and legal solutions provided in the Code of Administrative Procedure. The distinctiveness of the Consular Law lies in its adoption of different procedural mechanisms for handling administrative matters assigned the Council, even when those matters correspond to cases that within the territory of the Republic of Poland are adjudicated under the Code Administrative Procedure. This distinctiveness is further reflected in the divergences of various procedural details and the absence in the consular law of provisions equivalent to the general part of the Code of Administrative Procedure. Unlike the Code of Administrative Procedure, consular administrative proceedings lack explicitly legal principles enshrined in specific statutory norms. However, these principles can be inferred from the overall framework of procedural regulation. The first principle, the principle of legalism. The principle of legalism serves as the foundation for every action undertaken by a public administration body within a rule of law system. It applies to substantive, competences-based, task-related, systemic and procedural aspects of administrative action. This means that every decision issued by an administrative body in the process of applying the law must have a legal basis in substantive law, must be issued by a body endowed with the proper authority and under constitutional provision, and must adhere to procedural requirements. Deriving the principle of legalism from the provision of the constitutional is straightforward, as Article 7 of the Constitution states explicitly that public authorities act on the basis of and within the limits of the law. The consular law does not contain an explicit legal provision establishing the principle of legalism, being a repetition of Article 7 of the Constitution or Article 6 of the Code of Administrative Procedure. However, this does not mean that the Council is exempt from the obligation to act on the basis of the law. The principle of legalism governing the Council's administrative achieves and procedural actions can be derived from two normative sources. The first is Article 7 of Constitution. The second source is the consular law itself, interpreted through a legalistic lens. The sum of its provisions defines specific procedural and executive rules that authorize the Council to undertake legal, factual, or other prescribed actions when such actions are deemed necessary or legally required. A contrario, the Council may not engage in actions beyond those expressly provided for in the Act. The second principle is the principle of officialdom and the principle of objective truth. Modern administration procedures are structured around the principle of objective truth. The principle of objective truth is a component of broader principle governing administrative proceedings, the principle of officialdom, which requires administrative bodies to act officio. In the context of legal application, the principle of officialdom establishes a procedural paradigm that imposes specific obligations on the administrative body. You can see the elements of this paradigm on the slide. This conceptualization of the principle of officialdom derives from the fundamental mission of administrative bodies, the realization of the public interest. This mission necessitates that administrative authorities act ex officio, take the initiative in directing proceedings and assume the role of the host within the process. The administrative body's position as a host of the proceedings, which is central to the principle of officialdom, grants it the power to determine not only whether they initiate proceedings, but also the scope of those proceedings. This role imposes a duty to gather evidence. The essence of the principle of objective truth lies in ensuring that the body conducting the proceedings has the ability to examine the case thoroughly, clarify the relevant facts, and subsequently evaluate the gathered evidence freely in order to determine the truth. The Consular law does not contain explicit equivalents to these provisions of the Code of Administrative Procedure. An analysis of casuistic legal solution concerning the application of substantive law by the Council reveals that administrative proceedings may be initiated either ex officio or upon a request, with this determination made at the level of specific substantive legal provisions. Regardless of how the proceedings are initiated, however, the Council is always obligated to act in furtherance of the public interest in every administrative matter. This duty extends beyond administrative proceeding to include other official activity. The Council directs the course of the investigations, oversees all procedural activities, determines the sequence of actions, decides on procedural matters, summons parties and other relevant individuals to appear in person, conducts official correspondence, compiles the case file, initiates individual investigative action where necessary, gathers and evaluates evidence freely, and issues a decision resolving the case. In principle, each provision of Section 3 of Consular law aligns with the principle of official dom. That is the principle of flexibility and simplicity of procedure. The principle of flexibility is a distinctive feature of consular administrative proceedings, reflecting their unique nature and functional specificity. The legislator has designed consular proceeding to ensure that administrative process can be conducted efficiently in all circumstances, including those that may be unpredictable or unfavorable. This is particularly significant given that consular proceeding must be carried out in accordance with Polish law but in foreign jurisdictions. The procedural framework thus provides a legal basic for the Consular to adapt actions to the realities of the situation and respond to dynamic changes in the external environment. Flexibility is primarily reflected in availability of supplementary or reserve legal solutions which serve deviations from standard legal procedures when difficulties, disruptions or changes occur that could impede, delay or even paralyze the proceedings. The simplicity of procedural solutions, on the other hand, is achieved through the introduction to clear or straightforward rules governing specific procedural actions and ensuring their efficiency and effectiveness. Flexibility and simplicity are interconnected by their shared objective. Given their complementary nature, these two principles must be considered together as fundamental to the structure and function of consular administrative proceedings. Conclusion. The consular law does not expressly enumerate the principle governing administrative proceedings conducted by the Council in the application of substantive law sensu stricto. However, the analysis of the detailed procedural provisions allows for the identification of these principles. Despite significant distinctions, consular proceedings are fundamentally based on the same core principles as general jurisdictional proceedings. The most fundamental principles, legality, officialdom, and objective truth, are common to all administrative proceedings due to their shared axiological fundamentation within the legal system. The identification of procedural principles plays a crucial role in the interpretation of procedural norms. These principles interact to a limited extent with validation and evidentiary decisions. Moreover, the application of procedural law as a whole indirectly influences the application of substantive law, including subsumption decision and decision regarding the selection of the legal consequences. Thank you very much.